Welcome to What Happens in Vagus, a roll through your body's relaxation response. I'm Nancy Bernhardt, and with my colleague Lisa Clark, we're going to take you through a 90-minute roll of your body's ability to relax. Next up, Lisa's going to show you a few techniques with the ball, and then I'm going to give 5 minutes on neurology before we get to the main event.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you all for joining us today. I just want to go over the props that we'll be using today. First and foremost, the Coregeous ball. Of course, we all have one of these. They vary a little bit in size, so you want to make sure it's inflated to about 75 to 80%, so there's a little give to the ball. This ball is obviously very giving, filled with air. It's grippy, has a nice grippy, sticky texture. The more skin to ball contact you have with this ball, the better the effect. So feel free to maybe just go down to a sports bra or a tank top or whatever so the ball can reach more skin directly. One warning, the ball does love hair and it likes to rip your hair out. So when we use the ball close to our neck area or our back, make sure your hair is either up in a ponytail or held out of your way with your hands so that it doesn't rip your hair out. Couple things that you can be doing while Nancy is talking about the nervous system. You can start to get used to the ball. So just taking the ball and rolling it around your torso, your neck, your arms, your legs. You could lie down and place the ball underneath your back just to get a feel for what it feels like with the weight of your body on top of it. You can start to wiggle around a little bit. You could put it onto your side or use it as a pillow, purely just to get a feel for what it feels like to have this ball against your body and your skin. And just a couple words of caution, know your body. So as we're rolling today, be aware of the sensations in your body. So what I mean is if you're rolling an area and all of a sudden you catch your breath like this, or your body tenses up, or you feel pins and needles or a strong pulse, you just want to move the ball away from that area, either up or down or to the side of that area. You know your body way better than we do, so just listen to it if you're getting a warning of something not feeling right in your body. A couple of the props you might want today, a full block, a half-size block. If you don't have blocks at home, you could use textbooks. A mat, not completely necessary, but sort of nice to have underneath you. But again, not necessary. And either a small pillow or possibly a folded up blanket. Again, not necessary. Really, the only prop you really need today is the Coregeous ball.
All right, so we have 12 cranial nerves. These are different than the nerves that come from your spinal cord and innervate your muscles. These are major nerves that control big portions of your body's functionality. The 10th cranial nerve is called the vagus nerve, which means the wanderer because it goes through so many different tissues in your body. It regulates your heart and lungs, your speech, your chewing, your digestion, your sexual function, your REM sleep. So many things that are fundamental to your body's well-being are controlled by this nerve. General consensus is that when you get a gut feeling, when you know something in your gut, that's your vagus nerve giving you information, or it's part of the brain-gut connection. We used to talk about two states in the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Lately, we started to talk more about 3 different states in the nervous system. So the first one, which I'm sure you've heard of, is the sympathetic, the fight or flight response. This happens when your body meets with a threat. You mobilize. It's a very healthy response. Things like a big adrenaline surge go through your body. You start breathing up in your clavicles. The front portions of your hips, your psoas muscles, your hip flexors get really tight. You can do amazing things like lifting a car off a child. That's your sympathetic response. If you tend to anxiety, it could be that this response is a little bit activated in you over a period of time, which is not the greatest thing. You want to be able to come out of that sympathetic response when you can. So if you have a tendency to long-term arousal or this kind of anxiety, maybe through a trauma history, chronic pain, stress, it'll be great today to learn some more skills to bring you out of that response. Another state that your nervous system gets in when it's responding to a threat is called the dorsal vagal state. And this is the opposite of that fight or flight response. This is your body perceives a threat and it goes into shutdown. It plays dead, right? So if you can picture a mouse in the presence of a hawk, right? It's a prey animal in the presence of a predator. So an activation here in this particular part of your vagus nerve feels like depression. It's different than a clinical diagnosis of depression, which is generally reckoned to be like brain chemistry, but they're not entirely unrelated from each other. So if you have a tendency to shut down when you're stressed, you go to sleep, you're prone to low blood pressure or fainting, you're going to be coming at your optimal vagal state maybe from a different place from somebody who tends to get stuck in a sympathetic state. Now, no matter whether you're coming from a state of anxiety or a state of depression, or you don't really know, or it's mixed, we're all trying to get to the Goldilocks state of our vagus nerve, the parasympathetic state. This is your rest and digest state. You're relaxed. All the things I mentioned earlier, your heart and lungs, your digestion, your sleep are in good regulation. You have a great immune response. Your body can create white blood cells. And it's also where you can be social and engaged, right? All your facial muscles are relaxed. Your neck is relaxed. So one thing that happens in vagus is connection. Few simple, easy ways to stimulate this optimal vagus response. Diaphragmatic, abdominal breathing. We're going to get to this in a big way in just a minute. Laying down or inverting. Rocking. You see people self-soothing a lot. Rocking. And having massage or rolling the parts of your body that are innervated by the vagus nerve. We're going to do all those things together. The last one, singing, chanting, humming, not so great when we're not together in a room. You can do that on your own. Another simple way to stimulate a parasympathetic response. So today we're going to take a deep dive into the musculature of breathing while laying down and rocking and massaging. Breath is both an indicator of your vagal state and a great way to address it, to make it better. And a special bonus, the more you can feel the musculature of your breath and your lung tissue right now when there's a pulmonary disease making its way around the world, the better. We're also going to address the psoas muscle, which is partially innervated by the vagus nerve, and the musculature of the face and neck, which is related to social engagement. All right. So when you're ready, come to lying down on your back, come to supine with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. If you prefer to have your legs extended, that's fine. First thing we're going to do is called the basic exercise, and this is just a way to bring your body into that optimum ventral vagal state. You can bring one or both arms around behind your head and interlace your hands. If it's not comfortable to have both, one arm is fine. And all you're going to do is turn your eyes to the right. Look over to the right side of the room, not trying to give yourself double vision, not trying to give yourself a headache. Just gently look to the right until you swallow or yawn or sigh. Something will happen. It might take 3 or 4 breaths. It might take 30 seconds. And you'll feel your body just kind of downshift. It should feel really familiar, maybe that kind of relaxation response that happens when you get into bed at night. Once you get that yawn or sigh or swallow, you can bring your eyes back to center and just take it over to the other side. This is a super simple way to regulate your body, down-regulate into that optimum vagal state. Your hands are actually at your brainstem where the cranial nerves originate, and your vagus nerve runs through your eye socket. So those are some of the reasons why this works. If you don't feel a dramatic shift, that's fine. You can play with this another time, but that is called the basic exercise. All right, and we'll start to move into some breath work. You can bring your arms down the mat and start to come into an even breath pattern. So if you inhale for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4. Doesn't matter if it's 3 or 8. Just trying to even your breath on inhale and exhale. You can start to add a pause after your inhale or exhale, if you like, and just be empty or full in stillness for a moment. The inhale tends to function as something that upregulates us. So if you're someone who tends to depression, you might want to emphasize your inhale. If you're somebody who runs toward anxiety, you're going to want to emphasize the exhale. So maybe you're going to be in a 4-8 pattern if you tend to anxiety, so doubling the length of the exhale. If you tend to depression, just keep the breath even. We're not going to emphasize the inhale over the exhale today, but that's something you could do another time. So as you work this rhythm of breath, let's bring some attention to the musculature of breath. The main muscle of breathing is your diaphragm. When you inhale, so the diaphragm attaches to the inner part of all your lowest ribs, and it's shaped like a parachute. So when you inhale, the diaphragm moves down. It comes like a bowl down and presses all your abdominal organs out of the way. And on exhale, it comes back up into your ribs like a dome shape. Now, let your belly be relaxed so that when the diaphragm moves down, when the other muscles of breath move you into inhale, everything just moves out of the way, and then on the exhale, it comes right back up into your ribs. We call this abdominal thoracic breath because your abdomen and your rib cage are both moving with the breath. Everything is relaxed. And this is optimal for ventral vagal state, for that deep relaxation state. So let's talk a little bit more about the location. If you're breathing and you see most of the movement in your belly, that may signal that you're a little bit depressive, right? You want your, let's skip that part. Try again. How do I want to talk about this? Right. Let's talk a little bit more about the location of the breath. As your belly moves in your abdominal thoracic breath, first of all, you want to notice front, side, and back. It's 360 degrees of movement. When you're doing a flowing athletic vinyasa practice, you're going to want those muscles to be engaged to protect your spine, but right now you want them nice and soft. And it's actually a good measure of health to be able to turn them on or off. If you're depressed, you probably can't turn them on very well. If you relax, though, they're nice and soft. Then in your thoracic cavity, in your rib cage, in the lung area, again, you're expanding on the inhale. All kinds of small muscles on the side of your body are moving in and out. And then the third area of breath is up around your clavicles, up around your collarbones. Only about 10% of your breath normally should be up in that area. It gets really activated in a sympathetic state when you feel under threat. Mostly you want to keep the breath in that abdominal thoracic main area. So we're going to add a little bit of movement to this. So on your exhale, tilt your tailbone up a little bit. Curl your tailbone up off the floor. And then on the inhale, it can curl down toward the floor. Your chin and your neck will go along with this. So as it curls up, your chin is going to lift. As you curl down, your chin is going to drop. So you're making a U with your spine. It's a small movement or a little back bend with your spine. You'll notice your belly, the front of your belly engages when you come to that U shape on exhale, and you can squeeze your shoulder blades together as you come into the back bend on the inhale. Just keep that going. We're rocking the psoas in the front of the hips a little bit, trying to settle the vagus nerve down. And just also coordinating breath and movement. It's very soothing. That rocking motion is very soothing. We'll take that a couple more times. And then eventually you can let that go and return to stillness. Come back to your breathing pattern. An even inhale and exhale, or inhale and an extended exhale. And just notice what's happened with that much movement. Alrighty, from here you want to grab your Courgis ball and we're going to bring it underneath the sacrum. So you can come onto the ball either by bridging yourself up off the floor or rolling over to one side, putting the ball beneath you, and then rolling back onto it. Get the ball right underneath your sacrum. So the lowest part of your spine, you want your hips to be level. You don't want to be hooked over the ball, and you don't want to be too tilted up toward the ceiling either. Just nice and level in the hips. So here we're going to get used to the ball. We're going to open the back body, and we're already a little bit inverted. So you can roll side to side here a little bit, rock your hips side to side, give yourself a little massage in the low back. You can add a pelvic tilt, so curling up and down in the low back and the low spine. You can coordinate this with breath. Nice and slow movements. And then come back to stillness eventually. We're going to pin the ball right there underneath your sacrum, and we're going to pin and spin. So picture the ball as the center of a clock face, and your upper and lower body are the hands of the clock. You're going to spin yourself over toward 3 and 9. You might not get all the way over there. You might feel some warmth. You'll feel a little bit of twisting. You can keep your rocks and your rolls going as you do this. It's just coming out these tissues in a slightly different way. After a few more breaths, you can come back towards center and then spin in the other direction. Warming up the tissues of the low back. You can recenter the ball whenever you need to. It's fine to come off your mat. Pin and spin. I'm just mobilizing. A few more breaths here. Feeling how your blood pressure gets lowered when your hips are above your heart. Maybe feeling a little bit of a stretch in the front of your hips into those hip flexors where the vagus nerve runs. And coming back to center, take a breath, and then we're going to bring one knee in toward your chest. This is Apanasana. Keeping the opposite foot on the floor, you can use your hands to hold the knee. You can also grab the edge of your mat to keep you a little bit stable if you feel tippy on the ball. The opposite leg can stay where it is or extend long. Put that heel down. If that hurts your low back, put the foot back on the floor. You can take little wiggles here. A little rock side to side. You can roll around in that left ankle. If the left leg is up above, doesn't really matter which one. The one that's above you can roll that ankle around. And then when you're ready, put the long leg back where it was, put the lifted leg back, and then take it over to the other side. Knee comes in, moving the ankle, moving the hips as feels good. And then eventually coming back to where you started in that bridge pose on the ball. And then you can bring your knees up toward your chest and invert fully here. Send your feet all the way up to the ceiling. Viparita Karani for the yogis. You can hold on to the edges of the mat. If you feel tippy, you can stay very still here or make little bends and straightens in your spine. One way or another, you can pedal your feet out. If your knees are bent, that's just fine. Rotating your leg bones in the hip sockets. All the different movements that might feel good here. Just taking a few more breaths. I'm enjoying the inversion. Inverting is a lovely way to turn on your vagus response. One more breath in. And then on your exhale, bring your knees toward your shoulders. You can grab behind your knees or grab your feet for a happy baby. You can stay still or wiggle. It's a deep stretch on your lumbar spine and into the front of your hips. It's warming up the body, finding mobility, and keeping your abdominal thoracic breath going as best you can. One more big breath in and out. And slowly put your feet back on the floor. If you have any kind of low back injury, sacrum injury, you're going to grab a block for this next sequence. You probably don't need it. Otherwise, you're going to bring the ball to the space between your hips and your ribs, your quadratus lumborum. It's that mid-spine section. If you have that injury, you're going to take the block and put it underneath your hips. You can also put it under your head. That's a beautiful option as well. But if you have a low back injury, the block under your hips is going to be the good stable option. Otherwise, without the block, you're going to bring your knees up like we were and grab the edges of your mat and just take some twists side to side across that soft tissue in your mid-back. So you're not on your pelvis or your ribs, you're in that space between. So your hips drop one direction and knees drop, and then over in the other direction, scrubbing those QLs. These are the muscles that get really sore when you lift something that's too heavy, when you help your friend move. Taking a few passes side to side. And then when you're ready, you can put your feet back down on the floor and roll even further down the mat and bring the ball up into the middle of your shoulder blades, right in between the shoulder blades in your mid to upper back. Your hands can come behind your head. You can also put the block behind your head here if you have any kind of neck injury or upper back injury. Otherwise, interlace your hands, and then we're going to rock side to side over the ball at this location. You can slide across the ball. You can also tip over it, drop one shoulder down toward the floor and the other shoulder down toward the floor, making C's with your spine or T's with your spine. However it feels good, using the ball, especially if you have it on skin, to shift all the fascia, all that connective tissue around your upper back. Notice the lung tissue that's on the other side of that skin and the ribs on the back. Breathing into the upper chest and back. A few more breaths here. And then we're going to roll one more time down the spine and bring the ball behind your neck. Underneath your occiput, you can have your arms alongside your body and just rock your head side to side, shake it no very slowly. You can nod yes very slowly if that feels good. Don't forget to move your hair out of the way because that ball will eat hair. So we've just rolled the whole spine from the sacrum all the way up to the base of the skull, mobilizing all those tissues of the back body. And a few more breaths here. You can come to center. Just be still. If you want to walk your feet wide and let your knees fall together, that might be nice. Take a couple of deep abdominal thoracic breaths. And one more big deep inhale and slow exhale. Alrighty. When you're ready, coming up to seated, you're going to roll. Oh, yes, and we're going to do one more thing. Actually, you're going to do a full body roll. If you like, you can bring your feet right close to your bottom, lift your hips up, and do a full spinal roll all the way up and down. If you have a block behind you, you might want to move that out of your way. And move down your back, move down your mat. And this might feel a little bit too much work right now. That's fine. You can pick a place and just stay there. Or if you want to roll your whole spine, it might feel like a beautiful clearing motion in your body. And then eventually roll off the ball and lay down. Just take another breath or two. Eventually, you're going to come to seated, and we're going to come onto the side body, moving into rolling the thoracic region. So it doesn't matter which side, you're going to probably want to face your device, but you're looking for your lowest ribs and maybe just tucking under that lowest rib a little bit. So looking for those diaphragm attachments, and you're going to lay yourself down over the ball. Your lower arm can be your pillow. Your knees want to be bent and stacked here. So 90 degrees with the knees and hips. If this doesn't work on your lower shoulder, you can always bring that lower arm in front of you and put the block under your head. That might feel more comfortable. Either one is fine. So we're concentrating on bringing some awareness to the breath muscles here of the thorax, of the rib cage. So take a deep breath in. Top arm can be above your head or in front of you, either way. Feel the diaphragm move down as you inhale, and then let the ball sink into you on the exhale. Taking some big deep breaths in and out, just compression on the ball for the first few breaths. And then you can start to take some pelvic tilts here, curling your tailbone under and sending it back. 3 or 4 of those, coordinating them with breath. You can start to take some C shapes in your spine, squeezing down onto the ball between your shoulder and hip, and then the other side of your body. And then you can start to roll forward and back on the ball. That top arm might want to get into the act a little bit. You can open that arm up a little bit, take some circles with it. Whatever feels good. Just starting to roll the whole side of your rib cage and just under your rib cage, paying attention to the muscles that move with breath. You can stay in stillness here if that feels like a better idea. And a couple more breaths. Feeling the intercostal muscles, those little muscles in between your ribs. They run on diagonals. Internal and external intercostals connect to your internal and external abdominal obliques as part of your breath muscles. And then when you're ready, sit up just a little bit and bring the ball a little bit higher toward not quite your armpit, but the hollow underneath your armpit, just a little bit higher on the side of your rib cage. Bring your weight back down and set yourself up again with the arm or the block under your head. Just a little bit of a difference. Maybe take your top hand and put it on the upper ribs. You can dig your fingers in between the ribs and feel the intercostals moving as you inhale and exhale. You can use the press of the hand to facilitate the exhale. If you want, you can hook your fingertips underneath the edge of the lowest ribs and actually feel your diaphragm moving up and down. And always keeping that rhythmic breath, maybe keeping a little bit of rhythmic rocking, which is so, so soothing to the vagus nerve. Notice where you're finding fluidity, where you're finding constriction in the breath, where you have good sensation, maybe where you don't feel so much. One more breath here. And then we'll slowly sit up and take it over to the other side. So you can flip away from the device if you like, because you know where we're going now, or you can flip yourself over. First station is on the low ribs, docking underneath that lowest rib so you can feel the diaphragm on the ball. Head is on the low arm or a block. And just take a few breaths. Maybe your top arm is up and over, maybe it's on your hip, maybe it's in front of you on the mat. Knees are bent and stacked. And once you settle in, you can start to add your pelvic tilts here, curling your tailbone under and away. We breathe all day long, even when we're moving, so it's good to be able to keep this beautiful deep abdominal thoracic breath going while you're also moving. Maybe some C curves in the spine here. Stretching your lateral spine and extending. And then when you're ready, you can start to roll front and back on the ball. Feel free to reposition yourself too. If you feel like you need to pick yourself up and sort of move over the ball, that's fine. The top arm's going to want to move around a little bit. Maybe it's taking full-blown circles. Notice where it feels like you have good movement and where you don't. Nothing to be done, just notice. Seeing where you are today could be totally different tomorrow. Noticing the difference between the first side and the second side. And then when you're ready, coming up just a little bit to reposition the ball a little bit higher in that hollow under the armpit, laying your body over it one more time. Top hand to your ribs, maybe using the press into that palm to aid your exhale. Close the ribs down. Maybe sending your fingers in between the ribs to feel the movement of the intercostals. Taking your fingers underneath the lowest rib and feeling the expansion and contraction of the diaphragm. Maybe now you have a little more sensation of the 360-degree attachments of the diaphragm inside your ribs. You can feel it moving more. It's not something we're taught to pay attention to, even though it's the most fundamental movement of our body. A few more breaths here, feeling your thoracic breath with the aid of the ball. And then when you're ready, we're going to roll over toward the belly, taking the ball onto your sternum. Now, your sternum is the bone in the front of your chest where your ribs connect. It starts up at your collarbones and ends down at your solar plexus there. So it's coming right underneath your heart. You're going to stack your palms in front of you, one on top of the other, and put your forehead down onto your hands. And just take some deep breaths into the ball there. Sustain compression with your head on your hands. If this doesn't feel comfortable in any way, you can always reposition. If you want a little more height, you can take your pillow or blanket and put that underneath your head, or a small block. Feel the breath in your upper back just as much as you feel the pressure into your chest. We hold a lot of sensation in in those muscles around the heart. You're laying literally on your heart on the ball. So just let that sensation be with you and settle down. A few more breaths here. And then you're going to roll the ball a little bit down your body so that you can get your head on the floor and bring your arms beside you, palms up. Just take a couple breaths here, feeling the upper back in particular. Abdominal thoracic breath. Your rib cage and your abdomen are moving. And then you can start to rock side to side here. Let one shoulder fall to the floor. Let the second shoulder fall to the floor. Just taking some nice rhythmic movements. Feeling the release in your chest and your upper back. And eventually you're going to come back to center and bring your arms toward goalpost arms. So your elbows are out at shoulder height. Hands are perpendicular, forearms are perpendicular to your upper arms. And you can start to twist over the ball. You can do this with your hands lifted or your hands on the floor as you like. Twisting the muscles of the chest and upper back. Then eventually you're going to put your hands down and roll side to side across your chest. So all the way over toward one armpit, all the way over to the other armpit. You might need to move some breast tissue out of the way. That's fine. You want to be above your breasts. And just rocking side to side across the ball. Your pec muscles, which aid with your breathing, getting a nice release. Not to mention all those chaturangas, if that's your jam. Side to side. And then eventually you're going to come over onto one side, one pec muscle, and stay there. So get that ball on one side of your chest. Bring that same side arm down alongside your body. And just breathe there. Now notice, you can have your forehead on the floor. You can turn your head to one side as it feels good to you. Notice your clavicle, notice your collarbone on that side moving. Maybe you can even feel your scapula, your shoulder blade moving on the back. All All of these are entailed in breath. Take 4 or 5 breaths on one side. Then you can start to move that arm. Take snow angel movements if you like. You can keep your arm straight or bent and sweep it toward your head and back down toward your hip on that side of your body. Opening up all that tissue, bringing so much beautiful blood flow there. And eventually bringing your arm back to stillness, laying it down. And when you're ready, transitioning to the other side. So bringing the ball to the other side of your chest. That same side arm is going to be beside you, palm up. Forehead can be on the floor or your pillow. You can also turn your head to the side. And take a few deep breaths. Feeling your clavicle, feeling your shoulder blade, feeling that big, strong pec muscle that runs from your sternum over toward your shoulder. And then when you're ready, you can start to move that arm, snow angel movements, mobilizing into that side of your chest. And after a few of those passes, you can bring the arm back down toward the floor, take a breath or two, and eventually you're going to bring the ball back to center where we started on your sternum, right underneath your heart, stacking your palms and breathing, feeling 360 degrees of your lungs expanding and contracting. Feeling your whole abdomen moving as you breathe here, all the way down to your pelvic floor. Two more big, deep inhales and long, slow exhales. And then taking your time, you're going to roll off to one side and come to seated. Now, this might be a good time to pause your replay and go take a bathroom break, because it's going to be rolling the lower pelvis, and if you got to pee, it's not comfortable. So pause if you need to. We are going to work now into the psoas muscle, one of the main hip flexors. And the location of the psoas is really interesting. It starts on the sides of your spine, of your lumbar spine. So in between your rib cage and your pelvis, there are 5 vertebrae there. And the psoas attaches on all 5 of those vertebrae. Then it crosses the ilia, the fan blade of bone of your pelvis, goes right across the ilium, and then it attaches inside your upper femur bone on the high part of your inner thigh. It's the only muscle that connects your upper and lower body, and it's really important to all of our movement. So it's very deep to the body. If you're not able to feel your psoas, you're not alone. It takes a long time to be able to feel that muscle moving, and that's just fine. We're going to work it anyway. First thing we're going to do is sit on your ball. We're going to try and find those attachments at the very bottom of the psoas on your upper inner thigh. So I know it's a little weird to sit on the ball. You're just going to sit on it and roll over it. Can you use that little crab position with your hands behind you and your feet on the floor, and especially toward the front of your pelvis, trying to get those attachments on your inner thighs. If this isn't comfortable for you and you would rather do this kneeling, you could come to kneeling with a block under the ball or just on the ball. It takes a little bit of less weight into your pelvic floor, which can be a sensitive place to roll. It's another way to do it. And as you do this, I'm just going to mention that the vagus nerve literally runs through the psoas muscle. So these two things are very intimately related. It also passes through the diaphragm and shares ligaments with the diaphragm. So you literally can't overstate its importance to your health of this muscle. It's okay if you can't feel it. Maybe today is the first time you're actually going to feel it as we roll all these different regions of it. But we're going to keep loving it anyway. All right, once you've finished your rolling your sits bones area, we're going to come face down onto the floor. We're going to take the ball onto the front of the pelvis and just come onto your hands or to your elbows, and we're going to just slide the body over the ball. So side to side, just, your toes can be tucked under, and just take the ball to the front of your pelvis and roll it everywhere. Notice that if it's uncomfortable, you can flex your abdominal muscles on your inhale, which will help take any of the weird sensation out of it. That's all going to get easier as we go. And then eventually, you're going to bring the ball right toward your the center of your pelvis and take some sustained compression there. Lay yourself over it. If it feels uncomfortable, on your inhale, press the ball away with your ab muscles, and then let them relax on the exhale. This is the first time you're doing it. Nobody feels comfortable the first time they do this. And then we're going to start to drop one hip to the side and the other hip to the side. So drop one hip all the way to the floor and the other hip all the way to the floor. We're rocking the psoas and all those hip flexors, trying to get some beautiful blood flow to your vagus nerve. And then eventually come up to your elbows and bring the ball underneath the left side of your pelvis. So you've got that fan blade of bone, your ilium. It's like a cup on that side of your body. And you're going to bring the ball right underneath that cup of bone. The psoas literally runs right across it. Your opposite knee is going to be out at 90 degrees in a half frog kind of position. You can start on your elbows and just take some sustained compression there. If you can bring your head down to the floor, great. If you're not feeling ready for that, that's fine. You can always bring your head to something soft. Just taking some deep breaths here. Very delicious release on that psoas on the left side. You might feel your pulse underneath the ball there, and that's okay. You can rock a little side to side. And then, if you like, you can come to center and bend and straighten the knee, which will activate the psoas and then release it, pushing the knee into the floor. You can bend the knee and windshield wipe that foot side to side. And see if you can feel those attachments, right? From the middle of your spine, from those lumbar attachments of your spine, down toward your upper femur. Maybe you can feel the pendulum swing of the psoas muscle deep, deep, deep in your body. And then eventually letting the leg come back to the floor. You can stay here, or maybe come back up to your elbows and just roll all over that whole area, out toward the edge of the body, the lateral side of the body, all over the edge of the ilium. And then eventually, we're going to bring it over to the other side. We're going to do the lateral. Okay, so we're going to address now the lumbar attachments of the psoas. So, as we said before, the 5 different lumbar vertebrae are where the muscle originates. We're going to try 3 different times to press into that part of your spine from the front of your body. So 3 different locations on that soft front of your abdomen. So first, a little bit wide and down of that soft part of your belly. Opposite knee is out to the side in that half frog position, like you're trying to push the ball up against your spine. On the inhale, you can Press into the ball with your abdominal muscles. On the exhale, really release them, let them soften. Taking about 3 or 4 breaths, like you're literally trying to wedge the Coregeous ball up toward that front lateral part of your spine. And then coming up a little bit to reposition the ball the second time, maybe a little bit closer, a little bit higher, trying to find another way to touch those attachments of your psoas. And again, if you need the press away of the ball on the inhale, that will help make the tissue a little more amenable to what happens on the exhale. But maybe now you don't even need to press the abdominals so hard on the inhale. You can just let the ball keep sinking into you, as if you're literally trying to touch the spine. And then one more reposition, a little bit closer, a little bit deeper. Three. 2 more breaths. And 1 more. Alrighty, and we'll do that much on the other side. So first thing is, bring the ball to the right ilium, and we're gonna do this in a little different order this time. We're gonna roll all around it. So find the edges of the ilium, just roll over the whole right side of the hip, maybe out to the outside a little bit. See if you can palpate where that bone is. All those hip flexors, there's about 4 of them on the front of your hip. Then eventually settling right square on the front of that ilium, right onto the psoas. Opposite knee is bent, head comes down. Just take some deep breaths. Let the ball sink into you. Let it speak to the psoas. You can take little wiggles if you like, or stay still. And then you can start to pin and stretch if you like, bending the knee and straightening, activating and releasing that muscle. And then bending the knee and windshield wiping side to side. Finding a little bit of a lateral stretch in your psoas. Maybe this helps visualize it. And then straightening the leg back down, taking just a few more breaths here. This is one of my personal favorites, and I'm feeling really stressed. This might be the very first place I go. And then when you're ready, we're going to take those 3 vectors, those 3 different, what you can roll around the hip if you like. It's pausing to do whatever you like. We're going to take those 3 different shots at trying to get the attachments in the mid-spine. So a little bit lateral and low, putting your body weight on it, using the contractions of the abs on the inhale if you need them. If you're new to this, it does get easier. Your abdomen gets used to this kind of massage. Most everyone I know, the first few times they do this are like, really? You want me to do this? And as you get used to it, it starts to feel really good. But it might take, a few weeks of regular practice. And then when you're ready, you can reposition a little higher, a little closer to the spine. It's like taking 3 different tries to see if you can feel those attachments deep, deep in your body. We call it the lateral anterior spine. A little bit front and a little bit side of your spine is where it attaches. Activating the abs on the inhale if you need, softening them on the exhales. And then one more reposition, a little bit higher, a little more medial a little more to the midline of your body. And one more breath here. And we're going to come up to the elbows and just pass the ball side to side across the lowest ribs. So the ball's a little bit tucked under the ribs. It's like you're trying to roll the very rim of the low ribs. We're going to come at these attachments 1 or 2 more times. And ultimately, you're going to bring the ball back to center right underneath the bottom of your sternum, right? Your xiphoid process is a little tiny bone that comes right underneath there, right where your solar plexus is, 3rd chakra for those following along at home. Get the ball right in there, and then you can stand your elbows if you like, or lay your head down. And this is bilateral for those psoas attachments, both sides. That same thing that we were just trying to get at from each side. Feeling the relaxation of that muscle all the way from these points, all the way down to your leg bones. Beautiful abdominal thoracic breath here, using a slight contraction of your abs to come off the sensation of pressure if you need it. If you feel a strong pulse in your body, that's your aorta. You're going to move a little bit. You don't want to feel that thrum, thrum, thrum of deep aortic pressure. Few more breaths. And then when you're ready, you're going to take the ball out and just rest. You can come onto your front or your back and just come to some very restful position. Let your body absorb all of that work. You can be in stillness or moving your knees or your head as you need. Alrighty, and eventually make your way to seated. We're going to start to work into the musculature of the neck and face. So the vagus nerve is one of the cranial nerves that regulates social engagement, and there's a lot of anatomy to talk about here, but the only thing we're going to really mention today is that your upper trapezius are the muscles at the back of your neck that drop your head forward and down. The back of your neck and just at the top of your shoulder. So when you're nodding your head yes and no, that's your upper traps. And then on the front of your neck, you have your sternocleidomastoid muscle. It starts up at the back of your ear, that's your mastoid, and then it's this big ropey muscle that's visible on most of us that comes along the side of your neck and attaches at your collarbone and your sternum. So sternocleidomastoid, it's all right in there. Those are the muscles that turn your head side to side. So as you are engaging with somebody socially, you're looking at them, you're facing them, you're engaging with them. For these muscles to be tight and constricted makes it really hard to be relaxed and social. So we're going to address these muscles a little bit. First thing we're going to do is an exercise called the salamander. So seated, you can be, if you want to sit up on a block or sit on your ball or be kneeling or sit on a couch, all that is good. Just make yourself comfortable. First thing we're going to do is shift your eyes over to the right. Now again, don't give yourself a headache or double vision. And then you're going to drop your right ear toward your right shoulder. So this is an activation in the SCM on that side that you're turning toward. I'm going to take 5 breaths here. 5 good, solid inhales and exhales. The contraction of the muscle is actually the easiest way to release it. If the eye thing is bothering you, you can let your eyes come back to center. And slowly bring your head back to center. You can use your hand to do it if you like, and then let your eyes come to center. Just take a breath to neutralize. And then let your eyes move left. Drop your left ear toward your left shoulder. And notice, first of all, there's going to be differences side to side, right? One's going to have more range of motion than the other. One might have more pain than the other. Notice if you're having pain on the side that you're moving toward or the side that you're moving away from. If it's the side that you're moving toward, that's your SCM speaking to you. If it's the side that you're moving away from, it's probably a muscle called your levator scapula and your supraspinatus, and we'll address that in a little bit. Typically, it would be the side that you're moving toward. And then bring your head back to center, maybe using your hand, and eyes follow. Maybe drop your jaw and wiggle it around a little bit. And we will transition to a tabletop position. So hands and knees. Just make sure that your knees are right underneath your hips and your wrists are right under your shoulders, and you want your spine to be neutral, right? You don't want your spine dropping down below your shoulders or puffing up. You want to be nice and flat in your spine. And we're going to do the same thing we just did. So your eyes move to the right, and then your right ear moves toward your left shoulder. It's going to feel really different. You can let your spine come into a C shape to whatever degree that you like. Taking a few breaths here. So notice that you're working the back of your neck as well as those turn your head muscles, your SCMs in the front of your neck. There's a lot of really interesting anatomy about this. We can give you some things to read if you want to find out more. And bring your head back to center and gaze back to center. Wiggle around as you need. Gaze goes to the left. Left ear toward left shoulder. Think about 5 breaths. Maybe your spine is going to shift a little bit. Let the gaze be soft even though it's moving to the left. Couple more breaths. And then eventually let your head come back to center, gaze comes back to center, wiggle around as you need. Coming down to your belly, next we're going to come into a Sphinx position. So you're on your elbows are underneath your shoulders, shoulder width apart. Your hands can be interlaced in front of you or parallel. And one more SCM exercise here, you're going to turn your head to the right. So not dropping the ear, but just turning and looking over to the right. Muscles can probably starting to feel a little bit different now, a little more warmed up, a little more flexible, hopefully. All that constriction we feel in our neck when we get stressed out is completely aggravated by the head forward position that we all get into when we spend too much time at our computers and on our phones and driving and all those things. So this is good biomechanically, it's good neurologically, so many good things happening here. And then slowly come back to center and take it over to the other side. So head shifts left, gaze shifts left. You don't have to shift your gaze any more than where your head is pointing at. A little tuck of your tailbone underneath will keep your low back happy as well. And slowly, slowly come back towards center. Now you're going to grab your Coregeous ball, and this is maybe my very favorite thing in the whole workshop. You're going to take your head, turn it to one side, and drape your head over the ball as you come down onto the floor. So you can start off with your arms at goalpost arms. You're trying to have the ball touch both your clavicle and that spot behind your head. So just take a couple of breaths here and feel that beautiful release. If you want to take this a little deeper, you can take your opposite knee out to the side and also extend that same side arm down your mat next to your body. Both of those things will deepen the stretch and put a little more weight into your SCM and that side of your neck, which might be the best thing that's happened all day, and it might be just a little too much. So use those as volume controls. You can shake your head yes a little bit here, turn your head no a little bit here. Double check that you're not holding on with your jaw or grinding your teeth. And we'll stay here for a few more breaths. Whole face is relaxing. Breath is rhythmic and complete. Maybe pausing after inhales and exhales. And then when you're ready, maybe start to bring your arms and legs back to where you started. Very slowly transitioning here. That's a very deep stretch onto one side of your neck. Maybe you're going to take a moment in neutral before you set it up on the other side. So draping that SCM over the ball, feeling the attachments behind your ear and your collarbone. Starting off with your arms at goalpost arms and legs straight. And then if you want to dial it up, you can bring the knee out to 90 degrees in the direction that you're facing and the opposite arm beside you for even more stretch and release in that side of your neck. Maybe some nods, yes and no, very slowly. This is also a beautiful thing to do. I mean, we've had an hour or more of preparation for this, so your body's really ready for it. If you come home from a stressful day or, just come to a different room from a stressful day and come to this, it will feel different, but it'll still be incredibly delicious. And just a few more breaths here. And to come out, you're going to bring your arms and legs back to their original position and very slowly come up, make your way to seated.
All right, now on to the neck area.
Wait. We've just been doing all the neck.
Oh, that's right, okay.
So another way to do the neck.
Okay. All right, and now another way to address the neck, one of my favorite things to do with the Coregeous ball. You're going to take the ball and place it right at your collarbone here and look up in the opposite direction and take the ball and push and drag it up the side of your neck, underneath your jawbone and out towards your ear. So you're not actually rolling the ball, but placing the ball on your skin and dragging the ball up the side of your neck, under your jawline, and out by your ear. If this is too much for you and it doesn't feel good, you can feel free just to roll the ball in that same direction. But you want to take about 3, 4, even 5 passes on each side of your neck. You might feel a little warmth as you're dragging the ball up the neck. That's completely normal. So maybe 1 or 2 more passes up this side. Nice and slow. Remembering your breath here, don't hold your breath while you're doing this. And then along the other side. So starting around the collarbone, looking in the opposite direction, and dragging the ball up the side of your neck, under your jaw, and out towards your ear. Nice and slow. Five or 6 passes on this side as well. Again, you might feel a lot of warmth in your neck, but you should also feel a lot of flexibility and ease, maybe a little bit more room for air to flow through your neck. And next we are going to roll our face with the ball. Yes, as funny as that sounds, it feels, God. Okay, start at the face part again. And next we're going to roll our face with the ball. As funny as that sounds and as childlike as that sounds, it feels wonderful. There's many different ways and techniques to do this. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it right now. You can simply hold the ball in your hands and starting at your chin, slowly roll the ball back and forth from one side of your head to the other, slowly making your way up your face towards your forehead. Nice and slow, back and forth. Again, remembering your breaths, not to hold your breath. You can go around in circles. You can take the ball and pin it to one area and twist it in one direction, pull it off, pin it again, and twist it in another direction. Like wringing the facial skin. You can do that on your forehead. Another way to do this, actually, which is my favorite way to do it, is to come to child's pose. These can be together or slightly apart. Take the ball and just bring your face down onto the ball. And this time you can actually start at your forehead and make your way down to your chin. So long, slow passes, back and forth, from one side of the head to the other. Pausing anywhere that feels particularly stuck or feels good. Making your way all the way down your face. If you happen to have one of the smaller balls at home, these little OG balls, you can also use these balls to do the same type of thing. Pin and spin the ball in different areas of your face. But today we're working with the Coregeous, so we can stick with that for now.
We're going to use our hands now to massage some of the muscles and attachments in the neck and face. So starting off with your collarbones, starting at the notches at the center of your lower neck there, you can use your thumb and forefinger to pinch the bone, to pinch all the tissue around it, feel all those attachments. You can use the same side hand or cross over your chest. You can do both at the same time or one at a time, just feeling those attachments. A little bit of massage, you can pinch the skin and pull it away. And then migrating your hands up to the very top of your shoulders, between your neck and the top of your shoulder, your supraspinatus muscle. This is one of your rotators, but it's also one of the muscles that lifts your shoulders up toward your ears, which most of us do more than we really need to. And just dig your fingers into that channel right at the very top. It feels like a little triangular space in there. The muscle actually passes underneath a little spine of the shoulder blade and goes all the way out to the top of your humerus on your arm. And these muscles, if you felt like you were feeling pain on the opposite side of your neck from where you were turning your head in those SCM exercises, this is going to be for you. Releasing here is very important and very delicious. You can also do this with a small ball if you have them. And then we're going to start up on the face, so pinching your jaw at the chin, using thumb and forefingers to grab your chin and pull the skin, moving slowly out along your jawbone toward your ears. There's a lot of things lingering in there, a lot of tension on most of us, coming all the way out toward the hinge of your jaw. And then we're gonna come to your cheekbones right on either side of your nose. So finding your cheekbone, pinching there, maybe sticking your thumb a little bit underneath it and pinching out your cheekbones till you get out again to that hinge of your jaw. And then finding the space of your TMJ joint, your temporomandibular joint, right in between the jawbone and the cheekbone in there. So much tension. If you're a grinder at night, this is going to be tremendously rewarding to get some pressure in there. Then if you come a little forward of the TMJ joint, you'll feel a very strong muscle, unbelievably strong muscle there, the masseter. These are your chewing muscles. The strongest muscle in your body by far, centimeter by centimeter. You could chew cement if your teeth could take it. They are so strong. You can spin your fingers around, So much tension held in there. Getting up underneath the jawbone at the masseter feels really good. Or find where it feels really good on you. And then bringing your fingers on either side of the nostrils at the base of your nose. These are your scrunching muscles. When you sneer at something, when you look at the news and go, are you kidding me? This is what engages here. You can drop your head a little bit forward and use the weight of your head into your fingers to let those release. It's called the LLS, the levator labii superioris. Very, very tight on me a lot of the time. Surprising how much tension is in there. You can pull them a little wide and let your nostrils flare, squeeze them together. Little rotations. And then bring one set of fingers up in between your eyebrows, right up in the space between your eyebrows, a little below your third eye, not quite on your third eye. And then start to use both hands to pinch along your brows, your eyebrows, the brow of your skull underneath, till you come all the way out to your temporalis, your temples, those little indentations at the side of your eyebrows. Give a little massage in there. Twisting, pressing, rolling. And then you can use your fingers to trace all the little canals in your exterior ear. You can grab the edges of your ears and pull all the way around the whole diameter of your ears. Pull your ears away from your head. It's really nice for the plates of your skull. And just notice if you're somebody who holds a lot of tension in your face, if that release really made a difference to how you're feeling. Alrighty, and we're gonna do one more delicious thing. Taking your ball, gonna come supine on the floor, and the ball is gonna come just underneath your occiput. So the bony ridge at the back of your skull, you're gonna tuck it up underneath there. Put your feet flat on the floor to begin here. And you're gonna push yourself a little higher on the mat so your chin starts to lift up and your head starts to float over the ball. You'll come to a place where you feel like your head really starts to float. Your face is really parallel to the floor or the ceiling. And if you want to bring your feet wide and let your knees knock together, that might be just the right place to put your legs here. If you want to resettle your legs in another position, that's fine, but then it might mess up the placement of the ball. So just reset the ball if you move your legs. You can stretch them straight or come to Supta Baddha Konasana if that suits you better with the soles of your feet touching. And you can start to rock your head side to side very gently. We call this cliffhanger because your head seems to be hanging right off the edge of the ball. Hands can be on your belly, or one on your belly and one on your heart. You can also have your hands on the floor beside you if you prefer. Notice your abdominal thoracic breath. Even, slow breathing. Nice fluid motion. We rolled all that musculature of all your breath muscles. Beautiful free-flowing breath. Beautiful open neck and chest and jaw and face, just floating over the ball. We'll take a couple of minutes here. Just feel this feeling. Staying attuned to the breathing, the gentle rise and fall, the gentle contraction and release of your diaphragm. Feel your body in this profound state of rest. works for you to create this feeling of release and relaxation. You can stay here as long as you like. When you're ready, roll very gently to one side. You can use the ball as a pillow or make your way directly towards seated. All right, that was quite a journey we took. Just a few words on what may happen in the next 24 to 48 hours in your body. Try to keep that connection to your breath, feeling where you have constriction in your breath, where it's flowing freely. You can always come back to your ball. You have it now. Keep getting back onto the ball, rolling where you feel constricted. Notice where you have it, and that will give you some keys to what's going on with you. You may notice that your digestion is sped up quite a bit. We rolled the belly a lot. So if you're running to the bathroom a little more than usual, that's totally normal after this kind of a workshop. You may sleep more deeply, or you may have sleep disturbances. And this might not show up tonight, it might show up the next night or even the night after. So don't be surprised if that feels a little bit different. You may want some time alone. You might really want to limit your inputs a little bit, or you may be really ready and ripe for connection with loved ones. So just listen to yourself, see how that goes. You may feel like you can put down something you've been carrying for a long time, or you want to pick something up that you're ready to face that you haven't been able to face. Just be gentle with yourself no matter what comes up. And thank you so much for taking the time to take care of yourself in this way. If you have questions, please feel free to contact us through the studio or through social media. And feel well, breathe deep. We'll see you soon.